Donald Trump says that white Afrikaners are facing a genocide in South Africa. So they are being quietly welcomed here as refugees. Ask yourself, who is actually facing a genocide right now? Palestinians are being bombed off the face of the earth. Black migrants from Haiti, the Congo, Sudan, Eritrea are literally begging for refuge. Who's getting fast-tracked? White Afrikaners. I trip myself out every time I say that. Afrikaners. Now let's be real, this is not about humanitarian concern. This is about preserving whiteness in America. Trump and others are worried about the browning of this country. White people are the most genetically recessive people on the planet. So if they mix too much, then whiteness disappears. If they mix with black, then that child is black. If they mix with Asian, that child is Asian. Whatever they mix with, the dominant gene is always going to win, because white people can only replicate themselves. Black people can produce every race on earth. We carry the blueprint of humanity in our DNA. This is the real reason why they panic at immigration, especially when it's black, Arab, and brown people. So when white Afrikaners are quietly brought into this country as refugees, and people like Trump call it a genocide, what he's really mourning is the slow and inevitable disappearance of whiteness.
Can you imagine going through genocide, but you invite the very same people that are causing the genocide into your house? These people are taking care of your children. These people are taking care of your house. These people are cooking for you. These people know every corner of your house, and you are experiencing a genocide by these very same people. Make it make sense. Do you guys know the definition of a genocide? Do you assume that South Africa is going through a genocide? Or would you rather prefer that the very same criminals that are literally committing crimes all over the country, when they come to your house, they should actually be asking, sorry sir, is this a white or black family? And if it's a white family, they should skip the house and go to the next house. How entitled must you be to assume that living in a country with one of the highest crime rates in the world, that you will be excused from any form of criminal activities in this country? It makes no sense. South Africa has one of the highest crime statistics in the world. And you assumed that you will be excused from these criminal activities because, what, of the color of your skin? Now, I'm not sure how this is going to work and how we're going to get this message out to all the criminals, but maybe we should let them know when they do get to a White House, they should please just skip the house and go to the next house. Do you understand how entitled you are to assume that crime should only be happening to other races and not to your race?
So when the president says that there is genocide, where is the evidence? The U.S. has not recognized officially genocide. The United Nations has not recognized genocide. And for the thousands of people who you say were let into this country who've been granted asylum, Absolutely. I'm talking under the refugee resettlement program, which the president froze by executive order early in his administration.
Victor, can we take a pause and recognize the fact that you are defending race-based discrimination? You are defending race-based violence.
I'm not defending race-based discrimination in any way. The president uses the term genocide. There is no genocide in South Africa. And frankly, it does a disservice to people in countries around the world who are facing genocide in the Congo, in Sudan, those who faced it in Rwanda and Bosnia and Cambodia.
So when it's the white people in South Africa getting our throats cut and unalived in mass, nobody wants to talk about it, huh? That's fine. We don't got to talk about it, because that's the real difference between this side and the other side, is that we don't really get our feelings hurt over shit like that. You know, we don't need to talk about the fact that, 80 to 90% of Africa's entire resources come from the Caucasian farmers. We don't need to talk about that. And everybody wants to just throw it up under the bus when it's white genocide, right? Why? Because we got it coming to us? Is that what it is? Is that what it is? Do all of the Caucasians have it coming to them for the rest of time? So no matter what happens on this earth, whenever the white people are slaughtered in mass, we don't get to say anything, right? because we were the only ones in society throughout history that participated in slavery, right? So we got it coming to us, right? So at this point, I'm convinced that the Democratic Party and the left are just, I mean, beyond, something's wrong with y'all. Like, y'all are just inciting hate at this point. I guess you're just expecting us, to snap back? Like we're not supposed to be offended that, white farmers are getting slaughtered in mass in South Africa. I mean, of course we're offended. But that's the difference between us. Is like, what shit happens. Am I going to go around blaming every other person on earth because a bunch of dumbass people do a bunch of dumbass shit? But I don't like the fact that we can't talk about it. I don't like the fact that we're supposed to be quiet because it's white South Africans getting slaughtered in genocide, but, it's whatever. White, call it what you want. I'm sure there's a bunch of adjectives we can throw together for that, but either way, if you're not convinced yet that the real problem in this country is the left and in the mainstream media who weaponize the truth against its own people, I got nothing for you. This is beyond anything I've experienced in my lifetime. We are absolutely fighting a spiritual battle right now in this country. A battle between good and evil. It goes way beyond politics. But if you're the kind of bootlicker that's going to always make it about race, then don't know else to tell you. Go fuck yourself.
There's a racial genocide happening against white Afrikaners in South Africa, lady. It's like having indigenous people grabbing your property that you worked hard for here in the It's like having indigenous. Yeah, I read that right. Did you ever? There's a book. Did you read it? The answer's no. You didn't read it.
So there's a really dumb article in City Press at the moment, which basically questions why Donald Trump is focused on the whole genocide narrative in relation to white Afrikaners in South Africa. And according to the really dumb article in City Press, well, the reason he's done this is because he saw some propaganda online. Effectively, Donald Trump became radicalized online. The article claims that a source suggested that Donald Trump generally tends to see things online, becomes obsessed with them from random bits of information, and then these right-wing nut jobs such as Afriforum Solidariteit, these white supremacist elements basically get into Donald Trump's head, and he then goes on a big rant and issues punitive executive orders that sanction countries around these conspiracy theories he has. And I've got to say, articles like this are just pathetic and stupid because they attempt to give an opinion in order to rationalize what Donald Trump is thinking. And there is actually a really easy way to understand what Donald Trump is thinking. And that is, it's the RCJ case, dumbass. The reason Donald Trump is focusing on genocide in South Africa is because the South African government took Israel to the RCJ, alleging that Israel was committing genocide against Palestinians. If you want to discredit South Africa on any potential future cases that South Africa takes against Israel for the allegations of genocide, all you got to do is discredit the moral standing by saying, guys, you're committing genocide in your country against Afrikaners. In fact, the United States have had to take those Afrikaners in as refugees. You guys can't take any form of moral grandstanding here. It's a simple strategy. It doesn't require all the other conspiracy nut jobs and forms of defamation rubbish that we're seeing in this bull rubbish article online. But anyway, that's my views. Let me know what you think in the comments.
Have you seen this tweet? I don't think y'all grasp what's happening in South Africa. Black people survived apartheid, went on to become judges and lawyers, and are now defending Palestinians against the country that sent South Africa weapons during apartheid. If you haven't heard, South Africa has filed a genocide case against Israel in the UN's top court. Here's why it's a big deal. In an 84-page report that will go before the International Court of Justice this week, South Africa accuses Israel of both committing genocide against Palestinians in Gaza and failing to prevent it, including failure to hold senior Israeli officials and others accountable for their direct and public incitement to genocide. The application concludes that Israel must immediately suspend its military operations in Gaza. Now, although Israel has called the claims baseless and plans to fight in court, public hearings at the International Court of Justice begins on January 11th and 12th. The court will then decide whether to impose provisional measures. The final decision could take years. It's important to note that South Africa is pulling from the 1948 international treaty that criminalizes genocide that was drawn up in the aftermath of World War II and the Holocaust. It's also important to note that even if the court rules that Israel must pull its forces out of Gaza, that doesn't mean it's actually going to happen. Because in 2022, after a genocide case was filed by Ukraine against Russia, the court ordered to immediately suspend its invasion. However, the order was actually ignored and the deadly strikes continued, which begs the question of what power does the UN and the courts actually hold in international crisis? But what do you think about this? Let me know in the comments and follow This Explained for more stories.
Thank you for watching Great Minds Blacks.